gentlemen, do you want to know why I'm here today? It's not because I want to give you a pep talk or because I want to make you feel good about yourselves. No, I'm here to tell you the truth.
Hello, everybody. Welcome in. I hope that you can hear my sound right. Can I get a quick sound check? Make sure that you hear me and all my setup is correct. That would be excellent. And then we will get started here shortly. And anybody give me a sound check? You see my mouth moving. Do you hear my sound? Maybe I need to type that in, huh? I would just hate to go on a big, huge monologue of a million mile an hour rant and find out that nobody can hear a thing that I'm saying. I'm going to presume that you can hear me, but apparently everybody is camera shy, I guess. Sounds good. Thank you. Perfect. So we do know that we're live. Thank you so much. Still struggling to get any kind of actual viewership going, but you know what? We're going to do this like there's 100 people watching instead of just like a few of us. Just wanted to let you know again before we get started that everything you're going to hear from me today, of course, is just my opinion. It's for educational entertainment purposes only. I'm not an attorney, even though I talk about law a lot. I'm also not the micro machines guy from the 80s, even though I talk super fast. I do, again, want to make sure that you understand that this is just information, not an official news source, anything like that. So take everything with a grain of salt that you hear today. However, I will do my best to tell you honestly and truthfully how we feel about things with as much of an unbiased slant if you can. If anything, however, I slant in the direction of innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. I'm critical of mainstream media, law enforcement, and our judicial system, and that's the focus of the devil's advocates primarily, is looking for places where people are not getting their fair shake of being presumed innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. I'm going to cover a few things real quick on the monologue. These shows typically on my lives, especially the midday ones like this, are about 1 hour exactly. That's what I target for. Maybe I go a little bit long, maybe I go a little bit short, but 1 hour is my goal. I'd start every live with a quick monologue of telling you what I'm going to cover for the day, for the hour. Then I get into the breakdown of those things, and then I sign off. So that is the format. So here is the monologue of what's going to be covered today. And hello, Renee. Thanks for coming in. We're going to talk about what's new at Devil's Advocates this week. A lot of things going on. My channel is getting busier and busier. My schedule is getting busier and busier. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about what has already happened this week and what's coming up for the week. We're going to talk about some highlights from last night's live show with Birdie Bombshells on YouTube. So we're going to cover some of the highlights of that. We're going to do a quick Luigi Mangione update, basically that he has a new letter log out. And so if you, that's pretty much the only thing right now in the Luigi case that is kind of on my radar at the moment. We're going to talk a little bit in detail about the Idaho 4 case, some updates that have happened, like the video that some of us have only been seeing recently, but has been out for a while, which is the DoorDash driver, Molly. We're going to talk about Molly, the DoorDash driver, in a little bit in detail. I'm going to show a little bit of her clip. I'm going to focus on a couple of sections. We're going to talk about how Birdie and I talked about that video as well, but then we're going to get into a bit more detail when I get into it. Then we're going to talk about some mail from the Devil's Mailbag. That's one of my show segments that I want to try to add into the lives, is pulling some stuff out from the YouTube channel and taking some extra moments to highlight a user comment and go into it in depth. And then we will do live Q&A for whatever time is left over, where you can ask any questions you want. Of course, you can ask questions anytime during my diatribe, and I'll try to pay attention to it, and I will work something in the middle of my monologue or whatever of my talking if you have something important to share. Otherwise, we'll save it for the question and answer period at the end. All right, so, and then we'll talk, by the way, well, I think that's pretty much it. That's the overview. So now let's get into the detailed things. So What's new at Devil's Advocates this week? Well, I put out a couple of new videos, long form videos. If you look on my website here, this is my channel on YouTube. Let me pull it up on screen for you to take a peek at. I will hopefully add it to the stage. How come it's not adding to the stage? Before we remove the other media. Well, there's me, there's my channel. Good Lord, technical difficulties. We'll get it all worked out. So this is my channel. If you are on my channel at Devil's Advocates 2024, you'll see the videos, the shorts, the live. Here's the live area. And you can check out right here, the live with Birdie Bombshell discussing the DoorDash driver and more. So if you didn't catch last night's live and you're interested in seeing Birdie and I, by the way, when Birdie and I go live together, it's a pretty big viewership, so that's cool. He pulls in numbers that are insane compared to what I can pull in, and so it's super good and fun because we get a rousing conversation. But I'm going to save a little bit more for that when I get into the actual recap part, because we're actually doing what's new. Other things that are new on my video section, if you look here, I got some member only perks. I'm going to talk a little bit about that I announced today. The big one is this video that just published this morning. It's part 4 of my book review of When the Night Comes Falling by Howard Bloom. Keep in mind that because I'm reviewing Howard Bloom's book does not mean I believe or that Howard Bloom is an authority. I actually am. I consider it my job nowadays to keep up on all of the documentaries and all the books that are written. I'm going to be reviewing James Patterson's new book, One Night in Idaho is the name of the new documentary coming out in a little bit. I'm going to be covering that in detail on a video. Also, I don't even remember what Patterson's book's name is. Something about Idaho. I've already pre-purchased that book that was going to be out there. So we're going to cover all of that here in a little bit, but I wanted you to pay attention to what I'm circling on the screen. Part 4, it's a whole book series. I'm covering chapter by chapter. Sometimes I do 3 chapters in a row like this, 26, 27, and 28 I cover in this video called Only a Killer Would Insist That He's Innocent, as Howard Bloom tries to tell us that all of the things that people were seeing of Kohberger in the early days of his arrest, where he didn't look like he was guilty, is exactly what a cold, calculated killer would look like, as somebody who looks like they have done nothing wrong. So I love how he spins even his look of innocence as being proof that he's a killer. But anyway, so I rant about that. My hot video recently out there is the 5 dumb things guilters say. I counted down 5 things that I hear a lot on my channel. That video has gotten some traction. It gets me kicked in the teeth a lot. But anyways, you might want to check out that video as well. And of course, the big one before that, I think this was late last week, is the daylight footage. Why haven't we seen that clear footage of Bryan Kohberger returning to the scene the next morning at 9 a.m. as some people are still saying out there. Bryan Kohberger returned to the scene of the crime at 9 a.m. the next morning. With all of the videos that have been out there, why haven't we seen that crystal clear footage of Bryan Kohberger smiling behind the wheel of his car as he drives back to the crime scene? Because it doesn't really exist, is my opinion, but people are telling me absolutely, Devil's Advocates, it exists. Why do you think that the prosecution is going to show you that video footage before trial? It's going to come out in trial. You wait. Bryan Kohberger will be on camera, clear as day, in a crystal clear daylight shot that nobody has seen before. I have reason to believe that that is not true, but we'll see. I got an announcement about that as well, which is attending the trial. So we're going to cover that here in a minute. Going along with that idea, there is a new court hearing tomorrow, I believe, for Bryan Kohberger. So I got embarrassed yesterday on Birdie Bombshell's show when I went on, because somebody had texted me a few hours before going on with Birdie Bombshell, hey, there's a hearing in Kohberger's case televised today. So I jumped on, I found it, I watched it, I took notes for 4 hours or whatever the hell the court appearance was. And when I got on with Birdie, I started to give my review of things that I saw, and he's like, hey, somebody in the audience is saying that was a recast of a of a hearing from a month ago. I was like, oh my God, like I hadn't seen that one. So for me, there was new. On the positive side, I did cover things that other people haven't talked about, because I have a unique perspective, I think, in some ways. I catch other things that people don't catch. So overall, it was okay. I still mentioned some things that other people didn't catch, even though it had been out there for a month. But I thought it was a new broadcast because somebody told me, hey, they're going live here. And I jumped on it and I saw court will be in session shortly. And I'm like, okay, only to find out it was not true. However, tomorrow there really is actually a hearing, I believe, on Bryan Kohberger, and it'll be live, and I'll be watching that. So Nicole Sears, thank you for checking in from Florida. Always good to have you. You're a regular here, so thank you for checking in. Now I want to talk about some that court hearing. I want to talk about Bryan Kohberger's court hearing and new membership perk ideas, things that are going to happen in my channel. It is becoming pretty obvious that I am going to be able to attend the entire trial of Bryan Kohberger. Boise, Idaho is only a matter of about 3.5 hours from where I'm at right now. I've already made arrangements to find a place to stay there. I'm getting boned up on the process for getting into the court. It's kind of, I wouldn't call it a lottery system, but it is a first come, first serve basis of checking in. I think the morning of, to say that you want a spot in the overfill room. I don't believe there's room in the main courtroom, but there's going to be an overfill room. Now, let me tell you a little bit, if you're not aware of how these court proceedings should work, why there's an advantage. So even if the trial is broadcast on the internet and streamed to the internet to various channels, such as tomorrow's hearing, there was a comment by Hippler saying if we stream, we'll be streaming in the same places this stream right now is streaming. But that stream, from my understanding, will be, the cameras will be focused on the counsel tables, the defense and the prosecution, and the witness stand. What you won't be seeing is any pictures of the jury, for obvious reasons, nor will you likely see exhibits, especially graphic crime scene photos and exhibits that are put on the screen for the courtroom to see. So by being in the overflow room, even if I can get into the overflow room, that overflow room generally will have cameras on the jury and as well as the exhibits. So I will be seeing things if I'm in the courthouse that the public won't necessarily get to see. So at the end of the day, every day in court that I get to sit in court, well, I'll be doing it whether I get to sit in court or whether I have to watch the live stream with everybody else from the comfort of some place. I'm going to give a daily update. So I'll try to make that about a 30-minute update at the end of every court day to tell you what my thoughts were, what I saw, because there's some things we can talk about from the court, right? I can talk, for example, if I'm in the courtroom, about jurors seemed to be engaged, or jurors seemed to be checked out, or half the jury fell asleep, or whatever. I can make generic statements about that if I'm in the courtroom. Dorset, England. Dorset. Sorry, not Dorset. I said Dorset. Dorset, England. How about that? Check that out. Put that on the screen for a minute. Thank you for checking in from England. So anyway, so if I'm in the courtroom, again, I'm allowed to make comments. I can't say things like juror number 5, who happens to be a 35-year-old-ish woman who's blonde. I can't do anything like that. But what I can tell you is whether or not the jury has reactions, whether they seem to be sympathetic, whether everyone broke down in tears, whether somebody needed a tissue. Those kind of things are interesting tidbits that a lot of people want to know. How's this going over with the jury? And if I get to sit in that courtroom, as I intend to do, I'm going to cover all of that for you. So I'm reading a comment from my things. I'll put this up on the screen. We can talk about this in just a second. So that's my plan, is attend all of the sessions. I live close enough from home that I can come home on the weekends and give my wife a spell of some things at the house. So she's gracious enough to let me attend the trial. Here's the other cool thing for members, and I'm not as sure exactly how this is going to do that, but some of you have seen that I have made some friends with some attorneys. Cynthia Thornton, New York and Texas, I think, attorney. She's been on the show many times. Ali Benevento, South Carolina defense attorney for 15 years. She's a regular, comes on lives with me. We've talked about this. Ali Benevento is excited about being on the show and when I'm going to trial, and talking to me at least once a week to my members about her thoughts on my thoughts on the trial coverage. And I'll be copying every single day for 30 minutes. She's going to try to make an attempt, I believe, to watch those. And then at the end of the week or whatever, we'll have a meet down with Ali Benevento, a criminal defense attorney of 15 years, to talk about what I saw in the courtroom and some of her thoughts on that. I'm going to read this comment on here. Whether he's guilty or not, the question still remains, why did it happen, and why is there an attempt to cover it up? The state's narrative makes no sense, and any other theory makes no sense. Yeah, so 100%, The focus of this channel is the presumption of innocence until proven guilty in a court of law. Whether Brian Kohberger did it or not at the end of the day isn't my dog. I don't really care. I don't have a dog in this fight. So I'm not trying to get a killer off, if that's what you're thinking. Like, devil's advocates, you just want to have an excuse for a killer to have done something horrible. No, that's not the case. If he's guilty, then so be it. But let's have a fair trial. Let's not have shenanigans. Let's not have police planting evidence. Let's not have manipulations of stuff that the jury is being misled on about what really happened. Let the evidence speak for itself. That's what I am trying to focus on, is that I have every reason to believe that the prosecution and law enforcement in this case has not been playing fair, and that I want to see a fair trial. That's what I want to see at the end of the day. And they let the chips fall where they may. I'm not saying Kohberger is guilty or innocent. What I'm saying is he has the presumption of innocence until proven guilty in the court of law. That's how we work in America. It's how we're supposed to. But all too often, we've had 5 or 6 documentaries about Brian Kohberger where they all presume that he's guilty. We've had multiple books coming out, including James Patterson's new book coming out here in July 11th, I think it comes out, or 16th it comes out. Patterson's new book, which he's lending his name to another author. I think Vicky Ward is the name of the author who James Patterson's lending their name to it. So how much of the book is actually James Patterson and how much is it's Vicky Ward? Probably, I don't know. I would guess it's probably Vicky's book and James Patterson's lending his name to her, because that's something authors do on their way out, trying to help new up-and-coming authors get a name for themselves by borrowing somebody else's big name. So can we really blame, at the end of the day, James Patterson? Maybe, because he's making a buck off the Idaho case. But is the book really James Patterson's opinion, or did he just help with some stylistic grammar kind of things and storytelling and things like, this is how you should present it if you want to tell a compelling story, and Vicky's the one that really wrote the book? We'll see. As a reminder, also, Ali Benevento and I are going to be doing a live coming up soon. We're trying to work out the details right now. We're going to try to focus on the death penalty in particular. Both the cases I follow at the Devil's Advocates, which is Brian Kohberger and the Idaho 4. He's on trial with the death penalty on the table. Also, Luigi Mangione in New York is facing the death penalty in New York for the shooting of Brian Thompson. So the death penalty is on the table for both the cases that I'm currently following right now. So Ali Benevento, my attorney friend from South Carolina, she has a big passion for basically being against the death penalty. We're going to talk about the death penalty issues in both of these cases, how likely it is these individuals will receive the death penalty, and issues related to the death penalty. All we're doing right now is trying to work out a time that is best for Ali and I to do that show, and then I'll try to put out a teaser video ahead of it so that you can have some talking points to be thinking about when we go there live. Where's the documentary defending him? Somebody says. So where's the documentary defending him? Seems it'd be easier to make. Yeah, there are no, to my opinion, there are no documents defending no documents defending Brian Kohberger. I do, and by the way, I do and plan. I almost never stop talking. Do you realize that? You do realize that. Anyways, I do intend to write my own book. Nobody cares. I'm not an author, but I have always wanted to be a writer. I intend to write my own book about the Idaho 4 case, but I tend to do it. I'm going to publish that after the trial. Here's a shocking idea. How about we wait until after the trial to put down what happened in the courtroom, rather than here's why he's guilty before we even seat his jury. So I plan on writing a book and making it available in various different ways that documents the start of the Devil's Advocates channel, the covering of the 2 cases that I covered, Luigi Mangione and Brian Kohberger, all the way through the end of Brian Kohberger's trial and the conviction / acquittal, whatever the case may be, or the conviction / appeal process. Whatever the case may be, I intend to write my journey, including my thoughts about in the court and all of those things, all the crazy conspiracy theories that I've encountered as a true crime podcaster / YouTuber, and I plan on making that available for free to members only if you pay for the top tier of my membership plan, but it will be available for purchase after I get that book completed. I'll probably self-publish it because nobody's going to want to publish my shit, but I will self-publish it. And so, yeah, it's going to include all the crazy theories that I've seen out there. Neanne, sorry that you're behind. Have you seen the new letter log? I did see that there's a new letter log that came out from Luigi Mangione. I talked about that briefly. We're almost done with my announcements of what's new at Devil's Advocates this week. But let me tab over for a second. This is Luigi Mangione info.com. This is the official website maintained by the attorneys for Luigi Mangione. If you're not familiar with this website, the homepage has the case updates. This shows the 3 different jurisdictions that Luigi Mangione is facing. The state of New York, the federal government in New York, and the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. You can see here the next court date that is scheduled here is 9/16 in the state of New York. So that case was a postponed date. It was actually going to be in June, but they postponed it now till September. But what Neanne's talking about is the letter log is on here. Many people are writing to Luigi Mangione, including myself, by the way, as a small plug for my personal thing. Look on this is my YouTube channel that you're seeing. There's a member only section, letters to Luigi. I've also got letters to Brian. Every single week I write letters to Luigi Mangione and Brian, trying to just get a connection with them and see if we can get some insight from their perspective on things as much as they're allowed to talk about it. It's a lot of personal stuff. It's not, I don't expect them to be able to talk about their case, but trying to get a connection and understand these people as humans and try to understand a little bit about them. Whether they write back, we don't know. By the way, as a quick aside, before I get back to the last bit of what's happening this week, I do know the letter log has been updated. I'll show you that in a second. My letters to Brian Koberger are now getting rejected because there are 2 addresses to send things to inmates at Ada County Courthouse. One is for books and publications like magazines, and one is for correspondence. I sent my correspondence to the address that was for books and publications. And so after a month of sending him letters once a week, I'm now getting my first letter rejected to me saying, nope, you sent this to the wrong address, rejected, return to sender. So now I had to repackage the same letter, and all my letters to Brian Koberger are a month behind. So that's fun. All right, so let's go look at that letter log real quick. In this the website for Luigi Mangione, there's an FAQ section. In the FAQ section, there's how do I know if Luigi is receiving mail that I'm sending him? If you click on that, it expands. It tells you a lot of things about it. And here are handwritten pages by Luigi Mangione as he keeps a log where he writes in the date that he received a bunch of letters from the prison mailroom, the first and last initial of the person who sent him the letter, and the last 2 numbers of their zip code, and the date that the letter was postmarked, so that you can find yourself to see. And he's vowing essentially to read everybody's letter. And so this is his proof to you that, hey, I saw your letter. He's writing back to some people. Some of you out there who believe that Luigi Mangione is a horrible person, I know you don't understand why anybody would write to this guy. If you want to know why I would write to it, you can subscribe to the members only area. I'll read every single letter I write to Luigi Mangione so you can see exactly what I'm saying. But anyway, somebody pointed out to me that this letter log has been updated. So now we're clear all the way down here. I just wanted to show you something real quick before we get back to the highlights of the week. Here you see the latest dates that Luigi Mangione has been receiving letters is May 23rd. And in here, look at the number of postmark dates that are still in December. December 30th, December 26th, December 23rd, January. He's still getting letters. It's June. Well, okay, for him, when he wrote this letter log, it's May, and he's still receiving letters from December. So there's a massive backlog. Some people are, by the way, if you look in here, you'll also probably see those oddballs. Like, well, anyways, I'm trying to find one jumping out at me. Here you go. On 5/22, he received a letter dated 5/17. Days after it was sent, he gets a letter from May. Meanwhile, here he is days later, and he's still getting letters from December. So his mail's a mess, and that's the way that goes at the courthouse, or at the prison. I don't think that it's a high priority for the mailroom to make sure he gets his letters in proper order and in a timely fashion. We'll just say that. Last couple updates on things that are happening. I'm a lot behind schedule now because I'm talking a million miles an hour, but I still can't seem to get it out. Is Murder Metal Mayhem. God, Pete is going to shoot me. I've slaughtered his name at least once every single time I announce that we're going to live. So Pete Alteri from Murder Metal Mayhem and I are going live on Thursday at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. We kind of dubiously title our show that when we're together, Devil's Mayhem, Devil's Advocates, Murder Metal Mayhem together. So we're going to do another live. We've done one together. We're going to do our second one together. No, have we done 2 together? Shit, I think we've done 2. Man, I'm losing track of the days. Anyways, we're going to do a few more, him and I, and see how it goes and see if people enjoy watching Pete and I do our thing. And then, hey, Susan Russo, thanks for checking in. Then remember that on Friday, thanks for catching alive. Yay. She's just a devil woman. Okay, that's an old flashback. Anyways, point being, thanks for jumping in. On Friday, so again, real quick, okay, nothing I'm saying is quick. So what are we on? We're on Tuesday. Tomorrow night, live at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. We don't know if Allie's going to be on that show. I doubt Allie's going to be on that show. Thursday at noon Pacific Standard Time is another live I'll be doing. And then Friday at 6 p.m. is another live that I'm going to be doing, followed by 7 p.m. the After Dark show. The After Dark show is a 18 and older adults only Discord conversation, open chat where we talk, we have a few drinks, we cut loose, we say a lot of really inappropriate things that can't be said on the monetized channel or we'll get in big trouble. And by the way, as a spoiler, for those who are excited about Birdie Bombshell, because that guy has a really, really very, very rabid fan base, Birdie Bombshell is going to join me on the After Dark party next week. Not this Friday, but next Friday. This Friday he's out of town or has an engagement that he can't make, but he's super excited about having a few drinks with me, sitting down on the After Dark show for adults only. If you think Birdie and I talk about crazy shit when we're sober, wait. Anyways, come have a few drinks with us next Friday, but don't miss coming in on this Friday to get a feel for it. Get yourself your teeth cut and get yourself on the Discord channel so that you can make sure you make it for next time. All right. So let's talk now about a little bit about the recap. Like I said, I'm behind schedule. A little bit of the recap with Birdie Bombshells last night. That live show with him. Look at this. I've got 30 people in here right now. Really, really small fish. He pulled in 900 or 800, and I had 50 last time we were together. So we had approaching 1,000 people watching the show. That's insane numbers for me. So whenever I go on with Birdie, it's a fun time. People seem to like the two of us together as a combo. So it's a good thing. I think you should check it out. If you haven't, again, on my YouTube channel, if you want to get a taste of him and I together, you can go to my channel, go to lives. There's more than one right here. Here's one live with Birdie discussing the DoorDash. Here's other live that we did with a special guest. That's when I had my special guest, Ali Benevento, on Birdie Bombshell's show. So yeah, check that out. You're going to want to check that out to see what you think about that, and then come watch a live if you haven't caught one before. Thank you, Lady. It looks like Lady Speedwell said that she caught that and said it was a great show. That's fantastic. I love it. So I did, by the way, I got a little humiliated on that show because I went on the show and I talked about that thing. Somebody said, "Hey, Mr. Advocate, there's a hearing today on Brian Koberger," and it turned out it was a recast of a month ago freaking hearing, which I covered, and I did have some stuff, but once we got it sorted out, I was like, oh, that makes sense why one of the dates they mentioned in that broadcast was something that I was like, that date's already passed. Should have caught that at the time. Now I look like an idiot. People are like, Mr. Advocates doesn't know what he's talking about in this case. He's clearly talking about shit that happened a month ago. We talked about Translucent had that video release of the DoorDash driver, Molly. What was her last name? Molly McFly, McAllister. What the hell's the last name? Oh gosh, it's on my screen somewhere and I've lost it. Anyways, we'll go back to let's not go there. Let's go. Shit. Bear with me. I'm going to get all my shit together. Here we go. All right. Oh, wow. I just completely lost everything. Okay. The point being, McMichaels. It's McMichaels. Thank you. Molly McMichaels. So we talked about this, Birdie and I. Birdie, it's funny because I have other things I want to point out. So today's show, I'm going to spend a little bit of time looking at that video, the DoorDash driver, Molly McMichaels. And I'm going to talk about what I saw, which was a little bit different than what he saw. Oddly enough, that video apparently was an arrest of the DoorDash driver from September. So people were busting both Birdie and I's proverbial huevos by saying, dudes, this has been around for since September. Well, it was the first time I saw it. It's a recent thing from Translucent. So we went ahead and covered that. Yeah, so let me get into a little bit about that here in a second. We're going to talk about also, Birdie and I talked about this guy, William 127. I don't know if you caught that before. William 127 was an individual who claimed to be a friend of Brian Koberger's, and that he was going to stand up for his friend and say, look, Brian Koberger couldn't hurt a fly. I'm getting tired of everybody doing a hit piece on him. He pointed out some top content creators that are good on YouTube covering the Koberger case. God dang it, man. I wasn't on the list. Neither was Birdie Bombshell. But you know what? Pete Murder Metal Mayhem was on the list. Harsh Reality was at the top. Pavarotti, of course, was on there. Nika Neuro Nuggets. Those individuals I have told you before about that I follow, and I watch their shows from time to time. I don't follow them religiously, but I know them all. But damn it, I didn't make the list. You know how I'm going to know that I made it somewhere as a YouTuber is when I start making people's list of here's the top guys who are covering this, and one of them is Devil's Advocates, but that's not happening for me yet. And yeah, Drunk Parrot, he calls, you know, and here's the thing. William 127, who did all this defense of Brian Koberger, his videos apparently have now been pulled. They're no longer available. He had 2 videos available. I don't think, in fact, if we type in William 127, there's him. Somebody told me that his account, his videos have been pulled. And so that's the individual there on the screen, but the videos have been pulled. I feel like it's possible they were pulled because of his delivery. He did do a lot of body shaming, insulting people for being fat and short constantly. And sometimes content providers feel that that's over the top. And so whether he got, you know, obviously people think that he got his videos pulled because he's saying something positive about Brian Koberger. It may have been because the amount of times he called everybody who spoke out against Koberger or as being fat, short, and stupid, but I don't know. So we'll see. But he did claim, by the way, his friend claimed that he had been a Marine in Afghanistan in 2005, that he knew a thing or two about K-bar knife fighting, and that he couldn't have done what they alleged Brian Koberger did in the space of time that they gave him. So that was an interesting takeaway from that thing, was that even this guy who claims he was in the military, he was in Afghanistan, he was taught knife fighting, and he couldn't have done what they're claiming Brian Koberger did. And by the way, he said Brian Koberger is a pacifist. He's a non-confrontationalist. He doesn't want to be in a confrontation, so there's no way in hell that he did that. And yeah, at the end of the video he said, by the way, and my address is, so come look me up if you think you got a problem with me. So brass balls, I guess. So anyway, so that was interesting. If you didn't catch that, by the way, again, watch us on our live. Birdie and I talk about it on that live right here that I'm circling on the screen, and we've got that video highlighted, and we do the whole. He had 2 videos, and we cover both of those videos in depth. Birdie's on the line, by the way, to try to get a hold of William himself and get him on a show coming up. I may do the same, but Birdie's got the bigger audience, so if he can get a hold of him, probably better to have Birdie do it than me. All right, let's go to the next topic here. Idaho 4 case update. So let's go ahead and look on the time that we have left. This is that video by Translucent, Xana's DoorDash driver arrested. This is Molly right here. What did we say? Why do I keep going? Come on, you just had it for me earlier. McMichaels. During this, so what we've got here is a traffic stop, and I want to tell you a few things about it, and then I want to play a couple of isolated pieces of the audio for you if I can. Now, in order to play this, I need to actually probably remove this and add the screen, and I got to add just the actual tab so that you can hear the audio. Otherwise, you won't hear the audio. So let's go Xana's DoorDash, share, and then add. In theory now, the way I just did this is you should be able to hear the audio. I'm going to do a little test real quick before I break down what you're going to see here.
Please hurry.
Did you guys hear her talking? I'm just going to back.
His friend grabbed him. He doesn't, or no, he's probably, are you bringing the Subaru?
Are you getting the audio?
Okay, he's bringing the car. Yes, he can legally drive.
All right, I haven't, okay, so you do hear the audio. Perfect. Okay, I'm going to highlight a couple of things. Now, before, so the kicker to this video, if you haven't seen this video, the kicker to the video is this woman who is going to claim in the police station that she was the DoorDash driver. She's going to mention while she's in the police station doing her booking, her intake, she's going to mention, by the way, and now I have to testify in this upcoming murder trial. The police officer said, what murder trial is that? She says, the one with the college students in Moscow. And she's like, oh. And she goes, yeah, because I'm the DoorDash driver. And so, yeah, I saw Brian there that night. It's really mixed up. And so I'm going to play that part for you. It's part of this long hour, 56-minute video, just a portion of it. But it brings us to a lot of interesting questions to discuss, because Birdie and I were talking about it for the first time. Now, what's interesting is I highlighted this section I'm about to play for you early on. And I want to do a caveat before I do. So I'm going to cue it up right at about there. All right, I'm going to cue it up there. Now, one of the things I can't stand is, as a person who believes in the presumption of innocence until proven guilty, I see a case like this that has a whole bunch of circumstantial evidence that every single piece on its own is being fought with really good, legitimate, that could be true, that could be true, this could be not true. It's a lot of circumstantial evidence. But at some point in the public, when you get enough circumstantial evidence piled up on top of each other, then you'll get people who will say to me, come on, devil's advocates, when are you going to, it doesn't matter what they show you. Every single time they come up with some new thing, you've got an excuse why that's no good. And I'm sensitive to that. I understand what you're saying. From an outsider's perspective, from a person who's a guilter, as they will say, it looks like I've got an excuse for every freaking piece of evidence that comes out showing Brian Kohberger did it. The problem is that I also understand how cases work in America. When there's a case full of circumstantial evidence, it is imperative for law enforcement to bolster their case. And so if you can get a eyewitness to come on the stand and testify to something that you only have sketchy information for, but now you can put somebody on the stand who's going to say, no, I saw the guy do it, then that says a lot. And that has been used a ton of times in court systems. Officers have been convicted of wrongfully accusing people because they have twisted the arm of another criminal to say, hey, if you want to get a lighter sentence, all you got to do is say, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, that you saw the guy we want in this murder case at such and such a place on such and such a day, and we'll make your other charges go away. And some of you will say, that's complete horseshit. Police don't do those kind of tactics. All I say to that is you're apparently not paying attention to the American judicial system and law enforcement in America. We have a very corrupt system in a lot of ways. Yes, there are fantastic officers out there, so I'm not trying to besmirch all law enforcement, but planting evidence, coercing people, especially coercing people. There was a recent Netflix documentary, and yes, I'm going on a tangent. There was a recent Netflix documentary about Huerman, the guy that's the alleged killer in the Gilgo 4 beach murders. That showed how police officers, there was a prosecutor who had an unusual amount of prosecutorial wins when he was a prosecutor, and it turned out later on he was coercing people into confessions and eyewitness testimony against other people, doing these exact kind of tactics. Find somebody who's got something that they want to have go away, tell them that you'll make it go away if you just have them testify on something you need them on something else, and it works. Now, the reason I bring all of that huge, long-winded rant up is because what I want to show you here is a moment where Molly is pulled over. And let me clarify, she's being pulled over for suspected DUI, right? Driving under the influence. Now, at the police station, she will blow no alcohol. Now, I want to make sure that some of you are clear, because it's clear from my comments that not all of you understand this. Driving while intoxicated does not mean you have to be on alcohol. You can be on marijuana and be intoxicated. You can be taking hydrocodone, as this individual claimed to do, and be under the influence. It means you're under the influence in something that impairs your driving. It doesn't have to be alcohol. So some people have commented, oh, well, when she was in the police station, she was blowing 0 on the alcohol, so she had no alcohol, and yet they still gave her a citation for driving under the influence. What the F? Well, again, please understand, driving under the influence is multiple substances. It doesn't just mean alcohol. So her issue, according to this arrest, is basically, I believe, the hydrocodone, which may or may not have been in her system still. We don't know, but that's what she's being pulled over for. Now, with all of that, here's a moment that I thought was suspicious as hell, the way it turned out. Molly is calling her boyfriend, Jimmy, who owns the truck. She's driving her boyfriend's truck. This is according to the video. Now, this is all if the video is accurate and stuff like that. So I'm just trying to break it down for you. She's calling Jimmy. I've been pulled over by Jordan again. She's had multiple run-ins with police officers, and she knows the officer by name. Jordan's pulled me over again. I'm going to get arrested again. Here we go. before, she actually says in the video that she wasn't under arrest in a previous time, even though they clearly said to her, yes, you were under arrest. But she's like, well, they told me I wasn't under arrest. Well, no, you were under arrest. That's why you were handcuffed and brought in and all those. That is under arrest. Anyways, point being is that she's talking to Jimmy while she's on the phone with Jimmy saying, please come down here. They pulled me over. Your truck's on the side of the road. Hello, Tommy Jude, by the way. Thank you very much for saying hi. Here's where I think it's suspicious. If you look over her shoulder, I don't know if you can see it on the screen. I'm going to try to move my mouse. There's an officer looking in her vehicle. Now, in front of her in the camera where you can't see, we're looking at the body cam footage of the female officer who's giving a roadside sobriety test to Molly on the side of the road. Meanwhile, multiple officers are checking out the car. This officer in particular in the back is checking out her car and then says, are these your drugs in the car? Is this your meth? To which she seems genuinely shocked. Like, what the hell are you talking about? Drugs in the car? Oh, these aren't your drugs in the car? And listen to him and tell me if it doesn't sound suspicious as hell. You've got a rolled down window. She's distracted by another police officer. I'm not saying, please understand, I'm not saying an officer tossed drugs into her car, but the way this goes down, it's super sus, in my opinion. The way he's like, oh, are these your drugs? And she's like, what are you talking about drugs? Hey, that's not even my car. So let's watch this for a moment, because again, this is how, if there are drug charges outstanding, if she's facing not just a simple DUI, but she's possession of methamphetamine or something like that, those are bigger charges. And so the question becomes now, can this be used to get somebody to say, gee, if you want those charges to go away, maybe you can tell us about that night you were delivering DoorDash to Xana at the Idaho 4 murders when you wink, wink saw Brian Koberger, right? You saw him. I mean, if you can't help us, we can't help you. Did you see him? Oh, you did. Well, we can help you. All right, so let's watch this and just listen to the officer. Try as best you can to filter out your noise of the front conversation and listen to what's going on with the back officer.
Please hurry.
Okay, Molly, you want to put that on the hood so we can get started? Sooner it's started, sooner it's over, okay?
It's not my truck, officer. It's his truck.
So the meth in here is not yours?
What meth?
The meth?
What are you talking about?
The drugs.
What drugs?
Drugs in the car.
Search my truck.
Okay.
What drugs?
No, I was just clarifying.
What drugs?
If there was drugs, they're not yours, right? Okay. Just want to make sure.
Jesus. He's coming.
So
Okay,
the
Mom.
drugs are not yours. Just clarify.
There's no drugs in there.
Okay. There's no drugs. You know that for a fact.
Yeah. It's not my truck.
Okay. Oh, wait. You don't know. Okay.
It's not my truck. I can't. God damn it.
Let's just take a step away from the bumper of the car so you're not leaning on it.
So, and it continues, she's got Jimmy on the phone still, and you'll hear Jimmy say on the phone, I don't give authorization for them to search my truck. Don't give them authorization to search my truck. But what I want to point out to you is just that officer's attitude at the back. So is this your meth on the front seat of the car? What do you mean not meth on the front? Oh, so it's not your drugs? I don't know what you're talking about. So it is your drugs. And like, he's just, the whole thing sounded like, are you kidding me? Like, and again, I am not saying the officer put drugs in the car and said, oh, by the way, is this your drugs? But she seems genuinely surprised that there's supposedly meth just laying on the front seat of the truck. I don't know. She seems surprised to me. I'll play just that portion one more time for you, and then we're going to skip to the confession about she's the DoorDash driver who saw Brian there that night.
Please hurry.
Okay, Molly, you want to put that on the hood so we can get started? Sooner it's started, sooner it's over, okay?
It's not my truck, officer. It's his truck.
So the meth in here is not yours?
What meth?
The meth?
Right there.
What are you talking about?
The drugs.
What drugs?
Drugs in the car.
Search my truck.
Okay.
What drugs?
You can hear Jimmy in the background. They don't have permission to search my truck. It's interesting. I just thought it was interesting. It's worth noting. It's something I caught. Birdie is really good at isolating audio. So when he said, I got some isolated video audio, and I'm like, oh, I can't wait to see the isolated audio. He didn't catch the moment that I thought was interesting there. Let's jump through to the confession real quick as we're going to try to wrap things up for today. To the 3602 mark. So we're right in here. I don't know, when I say 3602, hopefully I gave myself a little pre-thing. So this is Molly in the police detention center. The officer is in the foreground. You see her glasses on. She's got a camera mounted to the glasses, so the glasses always stay nice and still. She's filling out paperwork. And Molly mumbles a lot. It's really hard to hear. I'll pump the volume up as much as I can. And I'm hoping that you can hear it. Again, some of you are well aware of this audio, but I'll tell you what I heard. And then I'll give you my thoughts to back out of this conversation here. Okay, here we go.
And then now I have to testify. Big murder case too, so yeah, because I'm the DoorDash driver, so yeah.
You have to testify in which murder case?
Murder case with the college girl.
Oh.
My DoorDash driver, I saw right now.
So I know it's super hard to hear. I think there was transcripts we can turn on. Nope. All right, I'm going to play it one more time. I'm going to tell you what I heard. I hate telling you what I heard because, again, once you tell somebody what you hear, that's all they hear. If you play this at 3602 with your headphones on, it'll be clear as day, I almost guarantee you. The part that I thought was suspicious is she says, and now I have to testify in an upcoming murder trial. And then the officer asked, what murder trial is that? She says, the college students, because I'm the DoorDash driver. And she says it multiple times, because, yep, I'm the DoorDash driver. Because, yep, I'm the DoorDash driver, and I saw Brian there. And then she says it's very mixed up. Now, again, it's going to be extremely hard for you to hear if you're not listening on headphones. And of course, I would be blasting you out compared to her. So you might want to do this later if you haven't seen it before. But listen one more time. So she's going to, I backed up a little bit before 3602 so you can have a little bit of a run up to it. You're going to hear her say something to the effect of, and now I have to testify in a murder trial coming up. And then she says, because I was the DoorDash driver and I saw Brian, it's very mixed up.
Shopping with it.
Mm.
And then now I have to testify. Big murder case too, so yeah, because I'm the DoorDash driver, so yeah.
You have to testify in which murder case?
Murder case with the college girl.
Oh.
My DoorDash driver, I saw right now.
So that's about it. But what bothers me is maybe I'm making too much out of it. But the statement of, and now I have to testify in an upcoming murder trial for the murder of those college kids because, yep, I'm the DoorDash driver and I saw Brian there. I thought to myself, does that mean now I have to testify because the trial literally is coming up in a few months? Or is it meaning for 2.5 years, nobody has mentioned that you saw Brian Kohberger at the scene of the crime. And now all of a sudden someone says, hey, you saw Brian Kohberger there, right? Okay, and now I have to testify that I saw Brian Kohberger there. You see what I'm saying? Like, what is the comment, and now I have to testify? Has she always been on the witness list? Has she always been, and we know that the initials match up. Molly, God dang it. Why do I keep losing her name? Anyways, Molly M, we know that matches up because that was MM is listed as the DoorDash driver. So at least it's possible and plausible that she could be the DoorDash driver. But she lists about 1 million things that she's got wrong with her. It appears that she's got mental health issues. She's got a drug history, it appears. She gets pulled over on a routine basis and knows the cops by name. And now she has to testify saying that she saw Brian Kohberger at the scene. Now, again, for those people who believe that Brian Kohberger is guilty, you're like, oh my God, devil's advocates, I cannot stand you every single time. Now we've got somebody who literally saw Brian Kohberger at the scene and you still won't believe it. Well, yeah, I'm not gonna believe that shit. This is classic police procedure manipulation 101. It could be that. People lean on other criminals and give them linear sentences and let them off for things if you help them out, place somebody in the right place. So if, hear me out, if a case has got a crap ton of circumstantial evidence and they don't have that smoking gun, because Dylan can't put Brian Koberger at the scene because she couldn't identify him from a lineup after saying she saw his bushy eyebrows. But now if you got a DoorDash driver who says, oh, before he put on the balaclava or the ski mask or whatever, he was sitting right beside me outside the house and I looked right at him and he was just staring at the house. He didn't see me, but I saw him. All the things that are being alleged that she's going to say on the stand. Now she comes forward with the story of I saw Brian Koberger there. So again, I tend to beat a dead horse. I get it why you're saying, my God, devil's advocates, you just never will accept that the guy is guilty and you'll have an excuse for everything. But if you haven't paid attention to how law enforcement works in America, people use other criminals against other criminals all the time. And it leads to false convictions all the time. It is, you just freaking do a little Google searching. You'll spend all day long reading cases and where this has happened. So is it happening here? I don't know. We'll see, because apparently she's going to be on the stand. I guess we'll see. All right. So that's the majority of what I've got. I've got a few pieces of mail that I was going to cover for my mailbag, and then I'll take open questions and answers for a few minutes. So I'm back on track somehow. So I'm going to try to remove this from the stage. I'm going to put in this. All right. These are some select pieces of mail from YouTube that I just wanted to comment on. And this was from Andrew Scriver, 4293 on YouTube, that said, they aren't looking to prove to us, just jury, no reason to release. Now, let me explain what the context of this thing is. So I put out a question. Why is it that as the prosecution alleges, and Howard Bloom's book, because I've been reviewing Howard Bloom's book, When the Night Comes Falling, Howard Bloom makes the comment that law enforcement were looking at Brian Koberger's phone and realized that he pinged. Now listen to this carefully. This takes listening comprehension skills. Brian Koberger's cell phone pinged off of the cell tower that services the house at the residence of 1122 King Road. It does not at 9 o'clock-ish in the morning, okay, of the day of the murders. So, and according to Howard Bloom, what that means is Brian Koberger was returning to the scene of the crime because, like killers, he wants to go back and go to the scene of the crime again. That's what and Howard Bloom says in his book, all the law enforcement officers, when they saw that Brian Koberger's phone pinged off of the cell phone that services the house at 1122 King Road residence, knew immediately what was happening. Brian Koberger was returning to the scene of the crime. And I asked a question. It's funny, because we know for a fact that the video of that daylight footage of Brian Koberger returning to the scene of the crime must exist, but we haven't seen it. Why don't we have the daylight picture, the clear crystal right? Because if you saw the ring camera footage from Dateline NBC, you can see that car crystal clear, but because it's nighttime, you can't quite tell what color the car is, and you can't see if it has license plates on the car or not, and you can't see if there's a driver. But other than that, it is a razor sharp image. So I asked, that same camera certainly caught footage in the morning of Brian Koberger returning, where it would be no question it's a white Elantra with Brian Koberger driving behind the driver's seat and a front license plate missing. That should be a no question anymore. To which I asked, why haven't we seen that video? Now here's this guy's answer to me. Well, because they don't need to prove it to you, Mr. Devil's Advocates. This trial isn't about whether or not you care about it or not. This is the jury. Only the jury needs to see that. There's no reason to release that footage. Au contraire, I will say, I hate picking on an individual. I'm using this as a example of the kind of logic that people are using. Every freaking month, there's a new hit piece coming out on Brian Koberger showing us how he's guilty, releasing new information to make the public believe that he's guilty. So I would argue that if that was the case, that they have nothing to prove to us and there's no reason to release anything, why do they keep releasing new stuff about Brian Koberger to sway the public that he's guilty? And I personally feel, I guarantee you, if they had the video of Brian Koberger returning to the scene of the crime and his face is behind the wheel of the car, we would have seen it. It would have been leaked by now because they have made it clear they want America to believe Brian Koberger is guilty before he ever steps foot in his first day of trial. So my logic tells me that video doesn't exist, because if it did, we would have seen it already. And then a lot of people will come in here and tell me, Mr. Advocates, don't you realize it's already been proven Brian Koberger was going to a bank at 9-something in the morning in Bosco, Idaho, and he wasn't at the house. You don't have to convince me. I'm already telling you, I don't think Brian Koberger's car was at the house that morning. In fact, I think the key is in the wording. Pinged off of a cell tower that services the house. And I've done the visual before. But if this is the house and this is the cell tower and this is the house, if this pings off of that house, it can also ping off of something over here. So if Brian Koberger's over here at a bank and it pings off this tower, which services this house, that's a long gap. It doesn't mean you're at the house. It's common logic. And I think that's what's going to be fought about in court. But we're playing all these manipulative games. Let's pull up another piece of mail. I'll do a couple, 2 or 3 more, and then we'll get into live questions and answers. So remember I showed you William127 from YouTube. We showed you this friend of Brian Koberger's allegedly coming out saying he's getting tired of everybody accusing his friend of being a killer. He mentions that he was in the Marines in Afghanistan 2005. He also mentions being, in the military and being friends with Koberger. So one asked, what if Brent Kopacka, who's frequently brought up in relations with Brian Koberger, and did they know each other from Pennsylvania? He was an Army Ranger who was in Afghanistan, same basic time, 2005 to 2009. So did these guys all know each other? Did William know Brent Kopacka? And that was just a question somebody asked. It's a great question. Will we get a hold of William and ask him those questions? Will he be receptive to that? He seems pretty abrupt kind of guy. He doesn't have a lot of tolerance for bullshit, so he may not even appreciate the question. But I appreciate the question, so we'll just put it out there. A couple more comments, and then we'll take some questions and we'll close up. Bandy Myers 4995 says, previous guilter here, and then I did research. It depends on if you want to continue being dumb or find the truth. What I love about this is simply that there are people out there who believe at one point one way, but they're open-minded enough to realize that, hey, I'm not sold on this. I think he did it. This is what this person's saying. I was a previous guilter. I thought Brian Koberger did it. I was convinced Brian Koberger did it. And then I did some research. And now it's like, am I still convinced he's guilty? No. Awesome. That's all I want from people who watch this show, is just to open your mind a little bit and be willing to accept that you don't have to know the answer already. That's all I'm asking. Just don't feel like you have to know the answer, right? You wait until we see everything. All right. Let's go for a couple more letters, and then we'll go to live questions and answers. Now, this is 2 from the same user, because this one kind of got a little bit, they had multiple things. There is footage of him, Brian Koberger, returning. Indeed. No one has seen it, and you will see it at trial. Well, Karina, I guess in a way, I hope you're right, because if you're not right and it doesn't come out in trial, and I intend to be there in the courtroom and see it myself, I'm going to try to look you up and I'm going to come ask for that apology, because you're like tearing me a new ass telling me that footage absolutely exists. I don't think we're going to see it. If you're right, I will look you up and say, hey, you're right, man. That video did exist. Good guess. But if it's not there, I'll look you up and ask if you want to say, sorry about that. Of course, that won't happen, and I really won't look you up, but it was something I thought I'd say. This last comment here was one that I thought was worthy of doing. How can any of you seriously think that he didn't do this? You all are disillusional and easily manipulated by channels exploiting the idea that he didn't. Every bit of what he did, clearly documented by the evidence he left before and after the crime. He wanted to get caught and go down for it like his idol Ted Bundy. Seriously, look at all of it. Karina, again, I don't like to point to a particular user. It would have been probably better for me to leave your name off of it, but I have to say, do you not realize that when you say we're delusional and manipulated, who's doing the manipulation? How about the 5 documentaries and multiple books that have been written telling you Brian Koberger's guilty before he ever sets foot in the trial? He has never been presented his presumption of innocence until proven guilty. You have already had mainstream media and major sources that people consider, a lot of people, not my channel, but a lot of people consider Dateline to be an authority. So if Dateline comes out and says, we've done investigative journalism and Brian Koberger's the guy, I'm telling you, that manipulates the public. You're claiming that me trying to defend the American system of innocent until proven guilty in a court of law should be ashamed for trying to manipulate people. I'm not trying to manipulate people. I'm trying to get sheeple to stop making up decisions based on mainstream media hit pieces. Let the guy have his freaking day in court. Let him have the presumption of innocence until proven guilty, and stop shaming everyone who believes in the justice system, which is innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. All right. I'm looking for questions and answers, and we will cut out for the evening or for the day, I guess. And then my job will be done. I'll go back to research and making long form content. All right. Anybody has got any questions or comments for me from the peanut gallery? You're not a peanut gallery, but thought I'd run that there. I'm going to take a moment to see if there's any hot topics that anybody wants to talk about or ask a question about. I feel like I have to, when I was taught in radio broadcasting, I was taught never to have dead air. I've said that before. I did some broadcasting, or at least I went to broadcasting school, and I was taught never to have dead air. So me sitting here waiting for a question to come up, it feels painful. I have to say something. Yeah. So, and some people feel like they haven't heard any hard evidence against Brian. That's what I would say. This case, I feel like, is a death by 1,000 cuts. There's a massive amount of circumstantial evidence, which a reasonable person might conclude there's no way you can stack up that much circumstantial evidence against one person. Every single piece of evidence so far, in my opinion, aside from maybe, I'll give you this, those who want, this is going to be controversial, aside from maybe the DNA, and I say maybe because the DNA is suspect as F, but aside from the DNA, which might be your best argument for, that's flat out puts him in the house. Aside from that, everything is massively circumstantial. So there isn't hard evidence. But again, it becomes death by 1,000 cuts. If you stack up enough circumstantial evidence, will a jury decide that no one piece on its own can't be argued away, but 30 pieces together can't be argued away either? So we'll see. Lana did a quick search on DD Driver and she has 4 brothers. Wonder if they match Othram's Lab's 4 brothers. Do you know? That's a good question. For those who are not super familiar with Susan Russo's question, I think you're talking about Lana from Truth and Transparency. Did a search on the DoorDash driver, Molly, and she has 4 brothers. As you know, when Othram Labs was contracted by Moscow Police Department to do the genetic testing on the DNA testing on the sample left on the knife sheath, they developed a lead on 4 brothers, none of which, from what I've been told, had the last name Koberger. It wasn't going down the Koberger's path of family tree. And then the FBI said, okay, look, you guys aren't going anywhere. Let us take over from Othram Labs and we'll work on the DNA. And then they developed a profile that led to Brian Koberger's family in Pennsylvania and said, hey, look, the DNA and the trash can in Pennsylvania has a 99.9998% chance of being the biological father of the person who left the DNA at the crime scene. Therefore, bam, Brian Koberger's at the crime scene. Now, that's a lot of jumps and there's a lot of arguments. But the question that you're asking here, did the DoorDash driver have 4 brothers? That's interesting. If she did, are they related at all to the 4 brothers that were identified on the knife sheath? Good question. I'll have to ponder that on the Tree of Woe. That's a line from Conan the Barbarian, way old movie, because I'm an old guy. Let's see what else we got here. Renee says, I just have a comment. Sometimes innocent until proven guilty is a hard concept for me. For example, the murder of the Minnesota lawmaker this past weekend. Granted, in fact, I almost jumped on this story. I've been kind of looking for a second story. By the way, I'm thinking I might be jumping on the story of Tyree Nichols as another story, because there's police corruption in a Scorpion team that beat somebody to death. That causes me interest. But yeah, Renee, to your credit, this is the reason why This is your comment is the reason why I didn't jump all over the Diddy case. The P. Diddy case was my first story I planned on covering. I was going to go all in on P. Diddy. But as I began to realize that my real focus is on the presumption of innocence, it was hard in P. Diddy's case to presume he's innocent. And it sounds hypocritical to me because I still believe that as any person is accused, Diddy deserves his day in trial, which he is getting. But it was harder for me to even go down the rabbit hole that he might have not been guilty because I've been following off and on Diddy's history for quite a while. And it just seems like more chances than not, that's going to turn out poorly. But I get it. There are some places where, that's why they're not good candidates for my channel. My channel doesn't focus on the cases where it's completely open and shut. Even with Luigi Mangione, I'll sidetrack. For those who aren't following the Luigi Mangione, for some of you, you think the Luigi Mangione case is open and shut. Luigi Mangione allegedly is caught on camera shooting Brian Thompson in the back. There's no question who did it. He's got a confession letter, a manifesto that said he did it. He told us why he did it. Why are we even talking about it? And why would you presume his innocence still proved guilty? That case is full of nuances. And so it's still in my wheelhouse. And if you don't understand why, watch my videos on it. You'll see what my take is on that, hopefully. Looks like I'm getting way behind. Lana's show last night was fucking awesome. I'm such a science nerd and I love stuff on DNA and genetic and genomics. So that's awesome. I should check that out. Yeah, I don't watch a lot of Lana, but I know who she is. So I might have to check that out. I'm looking through my comments to see if there's any last minute things. Got lots of good comments, but nothing that I'm going to riff on yet. This guy here, Psycho Stench, I think, you've got it. You've got it. I hate the fact that whenever I bring up Dylan Mortensen, her testimony as having major problems for me, I get told I'm victim shaming and how I'm a piece of shit. But yes, I would agree with you 100%. The only thing that makes sense is that the roommates are somehow involved. At a minimum, I will say I feel that Dylan knows what happened in the house and lied about not having any clue. She wanted somebody else to come over and make the phone call. She wanted somebody else to discover the body. She knew that there were bodies in the house. She knew that her friend was not just drunk. She knew those things. Then that leads to the second question. If she knew all those things and she lied and wanted somebody else to call it in, what is the reason for it? Because I'm convinced she knew. But that's just me. That's my opinion. And you know what opinions are like. So it is an opinion, but my opinion is she knows what happened. She knows they were dead. I should say that. I'm convinced she knows they were dead. So the phone call was her attempt to get somebody else to call it in. So then you have to ask the follow-on question. Why, if she knew that they were dead, did she want to pretend like she didn't know? That's the $1 million question. All right. All right, folks, I'm going to wrap up. I'm doing the best I can. I want to thank you all for coming. This has been a really good show. We had a bigger turnout today for my noon live than I did on my end for Birdie's show. Remember, you can catch Birdie and I's replay if you want on my channel, Devil's Advocates 2024, which is right there on this. Well, no, it's not right there on the screen because I have to show the screen again. And actually, I have to remove this and add this and shit. I'm a mess. You know what? By the time I get it done, you're going to all have checked out anyways. So there we go. And there we go. Yay. Good Lord. Devil's Advocates 2024. You can catch the replay with Birdie and I on the live tab up here if you would like. I'm doing my best. A lot of you keep telling me, and this is no big deal. I'm going to say this is closing. No big deal. A lot of you are really, really, really supportive of my channel. I see members in here who are paid members. The channel is growing every day. But a lot of you are like, man, devil's advocates, if you want to know what happened in this case, you need to watch Pavarotti. You need to watch Harsh Reality. You need to watch Lana. My day will be of joy when you are saying to other people's channels, if you want to know what happened, you need to watch the Devil's Advocates. But we're not there yet. So thank you all. I am watching other content. I do appreciate constructive criticism. Try not to bust my balls as much in the channel. But other than that, thank you all for checking in. I'll see you again on a live if you want to make the next live at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time tomorrow. Otherwise, I got long form videos to cut. Go check me out on my channel. Like, subscribe, hit the notification bell so that you get notified if you liked this content. Or if you can't stand the fact that I sound like I'm a toddler on crack, then maybe I'm not the right content provider for you. The 45 others of you who are here, though, check me out and subscribe, like, do all those good things. Thank you so much. Have a good day.